Good evening, this is Jeff from Four Muddy Paws, and thanks for joining us for another edition of our In the Kitchen series where we talk to our partners all about nutrition for dogs and cats. So this is our third installment of our In the Kitchen series, and I'm very excited to have Michael here from Stella Chewy's. So to talk to us about all about Stella Chewy's, all of their foods, how to work it in. We're going to talk a lot about raw food and just how to incorporate even a little bit more raw into your diet. So welcome, Michael, to our kitchen.
Super happy to be here, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Stella Chewy's and how it got started. So what's your DNA and what are you all about?
Definitely. So I'm going to grab a little bag here because this is Stella and that's Chewy. So these were two dogs that actually existed, so not cartoon characters at all. But so our owner, Marie Moody, and the founder, the genius behind Stella and Chewy's, adopted both dogs. And they had a lot of issues. And what she kind of wanted to do was give them something that really took them from kind of not doing so well to really thriving out there. And so she ended up, this was kind of before the whole raw thing started, and she ended up going to butcher stores and making her own stuff. So getting the bone, getting the organ meat, muscle meat, mixing it with organic fruits and veggies, and serving to both dogs. And for two dogs that had kind of a rough beginning, they made a complete transformation and really just thrived and almost lived till 17 years old. So pretty amazing.
And that's the power of raw. That's the power of raw. So
yes, definitely. So and it kind of just exploded from there. And she thought, maybe there's more to this, and let's deliver to other people that may have issues with their pets as well. And she was right. We opened a facility, our facility that we own and operate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's where we are, and that's where we kind of
great. As a fellow Wisconsinite, I appreciate those Wisconsin businesses.
That's right.
That's great. So, what makes Stella Chewy's unique in the industry? Because there's a lot of people who are creating some great diets for dogs and cats. So, what makes Stella Chewy's unique?
Right. There's a lot of them. I'll touch on a few of them here because we could spend a long time on
exactly.
that.
I know.
Yes. So the first one is that we make our own food. So that's very unique in the raw world too. That we actually have people who our facility makes Stella Chewy's, and that's what we make. So we can deliver and put all that love and energy into making only the best stuff with the best ingredients for all of our furry little friends. So that's number one. Number two is in our raw is our protein content from meat. So all of our food in freeze-dried or frozen is 90 to 95% meat, which means a majority of what's in that bag is the meat content. So super high, and that's what we're delivering, kind of getting back to that ancestral dog or cat. If we weren't around, kind of screwing everything up. All animals would eat raw, so that's kind of the idea, is bring them back to a raw feeding. The other one too is kind of how we protect our food, to make sure that only the best ingredients are going in and only the best processes. So still organic fruits and veggies. And then all of our proteins either come from either farm raised or cage free, wild caught or grass fed proteins.
And from local sources.
We get a lot from the U.S. And then a lot of our proteins too come from New Zealand, which is a great place. Great regulations and rules and really good stuff that are coming out of there.
Great. And you have your testing program. So I think so. If you look at, you can explain that.
So that's very unique too. We're the only company who have this, and it's a guarantee. It's on the back of all of our bags, freeze dried and frozen. It's a guarantee that says this bag is foodborne pathogen safe. Because we use kind of our techniques and the way our facility works, we use HPP. So if you've ever been to like Starbucks or Whole Foods and you've seen cold pressed coffee, same exact process that goes through it, and it protects all of our food from E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria. So it really makes this stuff raw amazing for your dog, and a guarantee.
And that's where some folks have, and rightly so, a concern about the health concerns with pathogens in the food, and you've been doing that ever since or almost from the beginning.
Almost from the beginning. Yes, not completely from the beginning, but pretty close. Yes, as it came about, and we were just very lucky because HPP, this process is actually very expensive, and that's why a lot of companies don't use it, is because it is expensive. We're just lucky in Milwaukee that we're a couple miles away from the HPP place that protects it. And you know what's great on it too is that we have a lot number, which is like the Best Buy number. And you can dial this in on our website at StellaChewy.com, and you can find the whole life of this bag from the day it was created to the day it was HPP.
Great.
So
I believe you're the only one in the industry that does.
We are.
That.
We are. So very unique there, and it's nice to have that.
And that gives all of you that opportunity to know how old is this bag, where did it come from, and everything in it, and the testing results as well. So that's important. So great, excellent. So let's talk a little bit about. Obviously, you got started with raw feeding, or Marie did. And so let's talk a little bit about generically what are the benefits of feeding raw? What are the benefits of adding a little bit more raw from the Stella Chewy's perspective into an animal's diet? So.
For sure, yes. So every animal out there eats raw, like we touched on before. We're the only ones who make things with fire, so it's the idea of bringing dogs back to what they would normally, dog and cats back to what they would normally be out in the wild, which is raw. And for dogs and cats, they eat a lot of meat. So for us, it's the idea of giving them some form of raw in two different forms. Either the frozen patty, which we have right here, that looks like a giant steak burger. It's probably really appetizing if you have hungry people out there. Pre-booked. Pre-booked, yes. And then we have a freeze-dried form. So kind of two forms, and I know we'll touch on this in a little bit, but we have two forms of raw that really delivers to every animal's, dog and cat's needs out there. So, and you know, some of the benefits of this feeding are, I mean, absolutely everything. Because dogs and cats are eating what's biologically appropriate for their body with raw, their bodies look like perfect. I mean, they look amazing out there. And so their weight is what it should be. They have that nice build, you know, where you can kind of feel the ribs. You can see that barrel chest and that beautiful look that dogs have. Besides pugs. And
exactly. We love our pugs.
Yes, we do.
They don't have the waist.
right. And the cats have that nice figure. And everything down to the fur, it has the oil back into it, so it has that shine. And the teeth.
Teeth clean,
That's another one. I have a silver lab at home, and I always, every time I go to the vet, they say I do such a great job brushing your teeth. I don't touch her.
We hear the same thing with Foster. It's the same thing because he'll be 12 and he's got great teeth. So, and the same thing because he's raw fed his whole life. So that makes a big difference. And also the key is, and you've heard a lot of us talk about it, but they poop less as well.
That's a great thing.
And that is a sign that their body is using more. It's biologically available, and so their body is using all of that as fuel and energy and nutrition, so that there's not a lot of waste coming out because that poop is just waste that comes out that the body rejects and doesn't need. So if you have a lot of filler products in there, you're going to have a higher volume of poop in the end. And so this is really nice. And that just has additional benefits like expressing the anal glands naturally, things like that as well. Even dogs, I know just from our perspective, dogs who have, who maybe are rescue dogs who have poor dentition, raw is really easy to eat because some dogs don't have. Some of our little dogs, as they come from puppy mill or things like that, they don't have great teeth, unfortunately. So going on raw is just so much better for them. Skin and coat, and their energy level is more even. It's going to help with joint issues. It's going to lower, again, we talk a lot about glycemic index in our business, and that just means how much, how does it spike your sugar and insulin in your body. And so a lower glycemic index, which a meat diet and without all those lower carb diet is going to have a low glycemic index. That's going to help us reduce the inflammation in the body. So it's going to help joint issues, just even inflammation around the organs and everything else. So we are huge, obviously you all know that, but big proponents of raw, and it's easy to do. And that's Stella Chewy's is just a great partner in offering a lot of options. So let's kind of go through a little bit about like how we would start to feed a raw diet. So let's talk about our frozen and how would we start feeding that? Like what would
So let's start with frozen. So first off, you know, when you think about the best stuff that you could possibly feed your dog, starting at the top of the pyramid, up at the top you have frozen, then you have freeze-dried, you have wet, you have the baked kibble. So we like to call it the Stellavator, kind of a fun term for us, but kind of staying at the top of the pyramid and getting some form of raw. So starting up at the top of the pyramid, we have frozen. We have two forms, right? What we have out right now is the kind of the patty form, and then we have almost the nugget form as well that kind of look like the...
Matt, do you want to get...
This is the freeze-dried, but it looks like this as well.
The raw. Yeah, perfect.
And so easy way to feed this. And what Stella Chewy's does great is that all of this stuff you can feed any way you want to feed.
Okay.
So whether it be a little bit or a lot.
Through the magic of live video, food coming from our freezer. So here's just some examples of, and I'll move this over here.
That's a big bag.
That's a big bag.
Great value.
We'll talk about our value there, but these are the 6-pound patties
Yes.
in there as well. So.
And so easy way to start is just starting with, I like to call it the Sunday Fun Day, where if you're new to raw, just start with 1 day a week. Feed this stuff. Think ahead of time, which you don't really need to do a lot, just the night before. Take out a couple patties based on the weight and let it thaw overnight. And in the morning, you have a great looking burger that's just like this. Looks probably better than a lot of our burgers out there. And you feed it just like that. So it's as close to a dog kind of tackling a rabbit out there in the wild as possible. And on a Sunday, you feed just raw. And then throughout the rest of the week, you go back to what you're feeding. But it's a great way to get some kind of raw.
That's a great idea. That's what we're like. That's what we try to let people know is you don't have to do raw every single day. And raw is not like an either or. It is just incorporate a little bit more in because even an ounce a day is going to help with keeping your pet's teeth clean. You're going to have health benefits. You're just naturally going to be reducing by adding that protein in. You're reducing the carbohydrates in their diet naturally, and that again is going to lower that inflammation in the body and add those more bioavailable nutrients. So every little bit counts.
Exactly.
And I think that Sunday Fun Day is a great way to remember it because people have more time on the weekends to be able to think about it.
And it rolls off the tongue.
And it rolls off the tongue.
You got to use it.
Exactly, exactly.
And we have two forms of the frozen too. So the patties that are in these big giant bags here, and then we have the morsel form, like I said, and that's kind of like a quick thaw.
The morsels, which are in our freezer.
That's kind of like a quick thaw version, and it's smaller. So for a lot of dogs too, who maybe are older or have kind of the not as many teeth. I'll go back to the pug because my aunt has a pug, and had when Mabel was spayed, she actually something happened in her esophagus where she would really throw up on a lot of things, on big things. So this stuff is what she's on now, and no issues whatsoever because it's so soft and just
and it's
you get it.
It's just scoopable, so you just measure it out by scoops, and it defrosts very, very quickly.
Very quickly.
So it's just like eating. It's the same shape, sort of, as a kibble, but a lot easier to eat for the dogs, and a lot of protein. We haven't gotten into the protein varieties that we offer, but there's a lot of proteins available. So you pretty much have your pick to be able to rotate through that. So.
Exactly. A lot of single source proteins, and then we have some of the kind of varieties of proteins in there, but a lot of single source proteins. So,
and I talk a little bit about, because we always hear about raw, and we want to be able to offer a good value to our customers with raw. And so you guys came out last year with your big value bag. Talk a little bit about the benefits behind the value bag. This has been just a great item for customers who really embrace this because it offers a really good.
Right. Well, a lot of customers have finally kind of figured out the value of getting more of the raw. And so what's nice about the big value pack is, one, it lasts longer, but two, it is actually a better deal than 2 6-pounds separate. So being that it's in the same bag, you're getting 12 pounds of meat compared to 6, and it's actually cheaper than buying 2 single 6-pounders. So the value is there. Plus, for customers who have a couple dogs or big dogs or want to feed more of it, you got a great option that you're going to have a lot of meat. So move over your stuff. Stella Chewy's is coming in.
Exactly. So it's a big bag, but it's a lot of food. Talking just briefly about like feeding and how much you would feed. So we like to go by a gauge, which is about 2.5% of your dog's body weight. That is a daily feeding. So for instance, if like our dog Foster is 50 pounds, so he gets about, because he's a little bit older and doesn't have the nutritional requirements, the energy requirements maybe, we feed him about 2% a day, so he would get 2 patties. He gets 1 patty in the morning, he gets 1 patty at night. It's really easy to remember. It's a little bit different as your dogs get smaller because their energy levels are, so it's a little bit higher, can jump up to 3%, 3.5%. But this is even, going with raw is even appropriate for young puppies
as
well. I mean, our dog, Little Potter, he's 2.5 now. He's been on raw his whole life, and he started when we got him at about 8 weeks old.
It looks great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's fun to see when your dog eats this to actually just devour the food and have fun at mealtime.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, I got to eat to survive. This is really good. I want more. And that's why they always have that look like, give me more.
Exactly. Because it will look like they're still hungry, but it's so good. And like I said, it does defrost really quickly, relatively overnight in the refrigerator. Yep. The morsels defrost a lot quicker, so great value. So taking from frozen, and then we'll take these. The same concept comes in the patty. So when we talk about freeze dried, and then we talk about, these are a couple different, same idea, but they're freeze dried options. So
so it's just one step further from this, and it's the same exact ingredients across the board, but what we do is freeze dry to make it shelf stable, so that you can camp with this stuff or have it. You don't need freezer space. It's just super easy and convenient. And what a freeze drying process does, it's different than dehydrating. Those are two completely separate things. So freeze dried is actually just the removal of water with extreme pressure. No cooking. It's done at 34 degrees, so there's obviously no cooking there, but it's the removal of the water. So that what you're left with are, I'm going to grab this, because this is a different version of the freeze dried, but you're left with these soft pieces that are easily digestible and just break down within the system of the dog. Super easy and absorbed.
Now what about rehydrating?
Yes, rehydrating I think is super important. Now with Stella and Chewy's, anything you want to do works. Like I said, you can add water, you don't need to, but I always recommend doing it because a lot of dogs and cats are dehydrated, just like a lot of guys are. And because we don't drink enough water. So a great way to make sure that your dog and cat are getting enough water is rehydrating it. So it's basically putting back the water that was taken away from the frozen. It's a great way to get the water in and make sure that your dog's hydrated. I do that with my dog. I do a combination of this and the baked kibble, and I make like a soup in the morning and at night. And she doesn't drink throughout the day in her drink bowl because she gets all the water.
And then what's beauty about that is that we talked about this too, but the intracellular moisture that they're getting from a raw diet and even a reconstituted freeze-dried diet, that you're always more refreshed after you eat an orange than if you drink a glass of orange juice, because that body is just, it's more available to them and it's more fulfilling and satisfying to get that intracellular moisture. So that's really key, and that's another benefit to raw. One of the things that we also like to do is rehydrate, not even just with water. We like to rehydrate with bone broth, or we can rehydrate with goat's milk. And so we have some exciting news as it relates to Stella and Chewy's. We'll talk about a little bit later in the show tonight. So,
and anybody who sends out the first question that comes through, we're going to pick one, and you're going to get a free bag of Stella and Chewy's. Well, we'll start here. Free bag of Stella and Chewy's patties that you can try, the freeze-dried. All right, so if anybody has a question, the first one that comes in,
and we'll just answer
get one
those.
Of these.
We'll answer those live. So we've got the freeze-dried diets, and let's talk a little bit about. If I feed a kibble diet already, and I'm not really in the market to change my dog's diet yet, but I want to add a little bit more raw in. What are my options? If I don't want to do Sunday Fun Day even. I just want to keep it really down and dirty, simple. What's an option for?
So, again, we have two options of freeze-dried. An easy way to start with this before I talk about kind of the meal mixer is starting slow with the patties, doing one patty a day. So whatever you're feeding, if it's kibble or if it's something else, but you want to get some of this and incorporate some kind of raw, start with one patty a day. This bag will last you a long time if you do that.
It just crumbles up. It's soft. It just crumbles
you
up
can
just
break
like
it. You can.
Like
they
that,
look like little kind of hockey pucks, almost smaller than that, but easily breakable.
Great.
So you can do that. Another fun way, I'm going to move this over there. That's okay. Is the meal mixers. I mean, we really call this one the crack coating for dogs because it's so addicting and in a good way, not a bad way. It's a good way.
It's good crack.
Yes, it's good crack. And so why we came out with this was to actually have a scoop that you just threw right onto the existing kibble. So not changing, if you're on a kibble that really works and you love it, it's a great way to get some kind of raw in there with not changing your behavior and just doing the same exact thing. So what we say with this is starting small too. So our big bag has 40 scoops in there. So if you just do 1 scoop a day, that'll last you 40 days.
Excellent.
And it doesn't. And we don't even need to talk about the size of the animal. If you just do 1 scoop, it's going to last you 40 days.
That's great. That's really important to remember. And it's just super easy. And again, the more protein you'd add a little bit less probably of your kibble in. Throw those meal mixers in. It's going to give you all that organ meat, muscle meat, and bone, the vegetables. Every bit of goodness that's in the raw diet is in here. Exactly. And we're just adding that in. So again, we keep talking about it, but lowering the carbohydrates in the diet is really key, and adding that protein in. So it's going to help with all those same raw benefits, and it's just easy. And for those extra picky dogs, you really super. So
they will devour the bowl.
Yeah,
so
watch out. It makes it a lot more interesting.
Get your hands out.
It also, just as a point, it works in puzzle toys and things like that too. So if you want to have some interactive toys, they can roll something around and that freeze-dried comes out. That's a great way to enjoy dinner when it's rolling around the floor and you've got to kind of work for it and hunt your food. So
make them work a little bit.
Make them work with it. And it comes in a lot of different protein options. So and we've got a special deal that we'll talk about at the end of the program tonight. A limited edition kind of deal with the meal mixers as well. So all that is done. You started as a raw company, and you and that's your main part of the business.
That's our base business.
That's the heart of your business.
Who we are.
But you've just come out with last fall kind of a new product line. So tell us a little bit about your new baked kibbles.
Yes. So what we wanted to do was come out with something that was again a little Stella Chewy's way, but doing it a little different. And so what we came out with, knowing that there's a lot of you that love kibble and it works for your dog, and we wanted to give you an option where you have that baked kibble but you still get a raw component in your food. So what we did was come out with 2 kibble lines, the raw blend and the raw coated. The neat thing about this is that it's baked. So being baked, instead of extruded, it's done at low temperatures, and it actually retains 70% of the nutrients in there, so a lot of it. So your dog's absorbing the food. And it breaks down. It's soft, just like our meal mixers, or just like the raw. And it's nice and soft, so gentle on the teeth. It breaks down and actually absorbed within the system. And it doesn't cause bloat either, which I know a lot of dogs come in. That's probably some questions that you get where
there's a large dog, the barrel-chested dogs.
Yep.
We've had a number of issues.
And this is a great way to keep them consistent, just like they would on the Stella Chewy's meal mixers, the Patties, or the frozen. But we didn't stop there. We added raw to it as well. So every piece of kibble here.
And this is the kibble here. The raw coated.
These are a little bit different. I'll show those in a bit. But the dust that's on all of these is the same exact freeze-dried that is in the meal mixers or in the patties. Same exact thing, and it's dusted on all of the kibble. And then the difference between the coated and the blend is that the blend actually incorporates these meal mixers too. So these same exact things, these same exact morsels are mixed into this food.
Right.
And quite a bit too. So we wanted to make sure that this food was so palatable for their dogs that they attack the bowl just like they would with the freeze-dried and frozen. And that's what we wanted to do, and it's been an amazing success because it's just working with so many dogs.
Right. No, we've had a lot of customers who are really, the dogs are enjoying it. It's even the picky dogs, they've done really quite well with it. And we have a lot of different protein options with it as well. Which is key. So
tons of different flavors.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have as a special bonus
add-on treat. Yes, I had a couple pieces here. If you can see it, they have a little heart in the middle, but it's a great, easy, healthy biscuit. So a lot of people that I see, they feed great food, and then they might get not so good a treat. So having eaten really well, but then having like that brownie or something for humans. So what we wanted to do was give them a healthy biscuit. So again, it's baked just like this food, and it's dusted with our freeze-dried. So again, even in our treats, getting some form of raw to their diet.
Excellent. So. And the dogs have been loving these, and they come in 4 different varieties, correct?
Lamb, beef, chicken, and duck.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So that is, so we kind of alluded to the fact that we had some new items that are going to be coming up probably toward the end of May that'll be coming into the store. So let's talk about kind of preview those. You guys will be probably one of the first to know all about these, so we're very excited to introduce these. So why don't you talk about this?
All right. So A lot of people out there love the wet formulas, so love the cans. Yes, and so what we wanted to do was make a Stella Chewy's product for that category of customers, and make sure that, again, we're doing it the Stella Chewy's way. High ingredients, or high quality ingredients, and a great way to do it. So it looks a little bit different than in a can. So these are Tetra Packs. So they are biodegradable, they're BPA free, recyclable packs.
Those of you who drink a lot of coconut water will probably recognize these.
Yes.
Tetra Pak's pretty popular in the natural food markets. So it's just a really good, more economic or ecologically appropriate kind of packaging.
Yes.
So.
And what's even better is what's inside. So all the meat is 100% human grade USDA certified. And then what we're using too is, instead of filtered water, we actually are using bone broth. So either beef or chicken bone broth right into the food.
Excellent.
And no gums, no carrageenans, no agar-agar, none of that kind of gel stuff.
And they're obviously they're BPA free.
Yep.
Correct, which is important. A lot of you know, we talk a lot about water bottles and things like that, and many of our cans and things are coming out BPA free. But this is important to remember, because it's, again, the less toxins that our pets can ingest, the better they'll be, along with ourselves.
Right. And it's kind of the same ingredients that we did with the kibble, where the poultry versions only have poultry in it, and the non-versions that don't have any poultry, we don't put it in there at all. So, so what we have here is single source proteins, 4 of them, 2 medleys, and then 2 bone broths.
Okay, great. Can you talk just briefly about the benefits of bone broth? We've talked about it in the past, but I think just another refresher about why that's important.
You know, the calcium levels too are super important for the dog, and just making sure that, again, the liquid is in there for their diet, and making sure that they're hydrated. But more importantly is just making sure that there's vital nutrients that are in the bone broth that are getting into their diet. If your dog, for example, isn't out in the wild getting the bone that they might normally get out there, so it's actually
has a lot about immunity boosting properties. So the palatability, of course, is key as well. So a lot of health benefits to adding in that bone broth. So
and this too also has pieces of meat in the bone broth too. Okay, so I mean, there's even more right in there.
So and again, the bone broth can just be poured over any kibble or anything as well. Or you could rehydrate, as we alluded to, we can rehydrate the freeze-dried with the bone broth itself. So,
and all shelf-stable too here.
Excellent. And before we would be remiss if we didn't talk about a little bit about our cats. So, cats are obligate carnivores. That means that they have to eat meat. They benefit. They don't have really the ability to digest fruits and vegetables the same way that dogs do, the same way that we do. So they depend on that. The animals they eat to have pre-eaten. So they think of the mouse as being the perfect food for a cat. 70% moisture, combination muscle meat, organ meat, and bone. It's benefiting when the cat eats the mouse, the cat is benefiting from everything that mouse ate ahead of time. So if that mouse is running around their little organic fields and things like that, eating everything up, getting all those nutrients right from the earth, all the nuts and seeds and everything else that the cat can't digest. The cat can't eat those things and get the same nutrient benefits that the mouse can. So the mouse kind of pre-digests everything for it, gets strong, and then that cat eats it, and it's, whatever. That's how it works. Cats are carnivores, but that's what we're trying to recreate with raw. So we are big proponents of getting cats onto raw. And Stella Chewy to talk a little bit about offers.
Yeah, so both frozen and freeze-dried versions, just like we do with the dog. And the difference, though, is that this is 98% meat. It is almost nothing but meat in here, because, like you alluded to, they need meat to thrive. And rehydrating it is even more important for cats, because they don't naturally drink water out there.
They're just animals.
Yes, if they got a mouse, they would drink the blood, and that's the water that they would get. So, so really, to be extremely successful with this is making sure that when you're rehydrating it, using hot water. So I see a lot of people using kind of maybe like hand water, or
tepid water kind of.
And that's still, it's warm, but it's not warm enough.
Right.
So I always recommend dishwashing temperature, so around 90 degrees. Simulate blood. the temperature of an
So you
animal.
want the warm animal.
So,
That's what they want. And that really is the key with cats. When cats say, I don't like it going
They're
raw or
temperature
things,
aged.
it's
Yep.
really temperature. Dogs have it. Some dogs have that to a degree. Cats have it to a greater degree. So having that being a little bit warmer, having it sit out for a little while longer to be room temperature
Yes.
or a little higher than room temperature, not cooking it,
Right.
but being a little warmer will really help your cats go, oh, that's food. That's what that is.
And they will
it'll be
eat the
much more
stuff up when
palatable.
that temperature is right.
Yeah, that's a good point that we oftentimes miss. You can also rehydrate it with the bone broth and things like that too. So,
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many ways. Again, any way you want to do this, but that's one way to be extremely successful, and you're getting a ton of meat either in the frozen form or the freeze dried form. So.
And a lot of protein option combinations available too.
Definitely,
that, so.
definitely, lots.
Great. Well, I think that covers everything. So we're gonna. Do we have any questions first? We'll take some of those.
I've got a few questions.
Excellent.
So repeat them so in case they can't hear me.
Okay.
Stacy asked, she was the first one who asked a question. Why is dehydrated not as good as freeze drying?
Yes. All right. Why is dehydrating not as good as freeze drying? Thank you, Stacy. And you get that free bag, by the way. So come in and get it, and we'll I guess figure out how to do that.
Yeah. We'll
But so big difference is the temperature. In dehydrating, it breaks that threshold of cooking. That's why when you dehydrate something, humans can actually eat it. With freeze drying, so the way that we do our food, 34 degrees is a low temperature, and that's the big difference, is that we're using pressure instead of temperature to make sure that, or to put it into this form. So that would be the big difference.
And if you think about it, Stacy, think about a strawberry, and you've got what a whole strawberry looks like, a fresh strawberry. If you freeze dried it, it looks like a fresh strawberry. It's just dry, but it keeps that strawberry form. It keeps the shape of a strawberry. It keeps relative color of the strawberry. That's the freeze drying. So it looks almost like that real fruit did. If you dehydrated that strawberry, it would be brownish and not look, it would be flat and brown and not look like a strawberry exactly. That's a good way visually to think about freeze drying versus dehydrating. Now, dehydrating uses less heat than other methods, and so that's just the difference. Freeze drying is sort of like gold standard to drying and preserving if you're not going to go straight frozen raw. So, but thank you so much, Stacey, and I will contact you and we'll figure out how to get that bag to you. So thank you so much for asking and watching today.
Joseph asked, what is the cost?
Joseph, thank you for your question. What is the cost? So it varies across the board, and it depends on how much that you actually want to feed. So you could feed a full diet, which 100% either freeze-dried or frozen or the baked kibble, or you can supplement it. And actually 2/3 of our customers across the board supplement with Stella and Chewy's. So they stick with what they eat, and then they use it as a topper. It's a great entryway. But definitely come into the store, see all the different prices. It varies drastically.
Depends on the size of your dog. The best value we have is the frozen 2-pack, the 6-pound, 2 6-pound pack. Frozen raw is always going to be your best value. Freeze drying is a little bit more expensive, so pound for pound, that's going to be a little bit higher. But you get still the benefits going into the meal mixers, etc. One thing that at Four Muddy Paws that we do is raw is included in our Wade Club program. So when you buy 10 bags, you get the 11th bag free. So when you buy 10 6-pound bags, you're going to get the 11th bag free. The same thing with the raw blend kibbles or the raw coated. So all of that is included. So that does kind of help. We try to pass on as much value to the customers as we can. But thank you so much.
Yes.
Crystal had a question. Do I need to slowly introduce, or can I just start feeding?
Yes. So can I slowly introduce, or do I need to jump right in to start to feed some raw? And what I always recommend is if you're kind of supplementing it, so if you're just doing a topper or 1 scoop or something like that, we don't see that you need a need to kind of ease into it because you're not doing the full 100%. But kind of the standard out there in the pet food world is 7 to 10 days for a full transition for a dog. It gives them enough time to work in the new food and work the old stuff out. And by that time, by the 7 to 10 days, you'll know kind of how your system of your dog's working. Enough time to flush everything out and start fresh.
Some people will go, they'll do that just one Sunday fun day and then they'll go back to the kibble. Some people will go every other day. Some people will do it a raw meal, and then a kibble meal. We're a big fan of doing it kibble in the daytime, raw at night. Gives you all day to digest, gives your dog all day to digest that kibble. Yep. And then when they eat their raw at night, it's a little bit easier because they're going to be less active at night to digest. So that's our preferred way of doing it.
Another great thing too, with all the different flavors, you can easily switch to be back and forth with all of them because the protein and the fat ratios are very similar. Your dog, once you're on Stella Chewy's, can easily flip-flop between the flavors, and I think you recommend it too, is making sure that you're going from the different flavors so that you have variety. There's different nutrients and different vitamins and minerals in each, so it's nice to have variety, and your dog doesn't get bored.
And it's not really as hard as you think, in our experience, and a lot of our customers' experience, so thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Deborah asked, and I sent out a follow-up with her, not sure if she's still on. Is this better than venison? So I had asked her, are you comparing it to frozen, dry? What are you comparing it to?
Venison, is a... Well, that depends where you want to go with that question. Let's just talk about food energetics wise. Venison is oftentimes where someone will go to a food if their dog has allergies or sensitivities or things like that. In some cases, though, venison in food energetics is considered a hot food. Traditional Chinese medicine kind of looks at every food being a cold food and then sort of a neutral, warming, and hot foods. And so duck, for instance, here's my duck, that's going to be a cooling food. And chicken is going to be a warming food. Beef is actually a more cooling, not cold, not as cold as duck, but venison is going to be a hot food. Venison and lamb in particular. So if your dog has an active skin condition, that is like turning up the heat on a boiling pot of water. It can kind of aggravate, but some dogs do very, very well because it is a unique protein, and so for some dogs, venison can do quite well. I have to say, however, venison prices have increased dramatically right now, and the availability has decreased because of some, I think it's New Zealand and some laws, because they had and I don't even know what the whole history, but there's less venison than there was.
Most of ours were special order.
And a lot of the venison is being pulled back. So we're not able to get as much. So some of it is going to be special order, and the price went way up on venison. So unfortunately, but we have a lot of other alternate proteins if that's what you're looking for in the shops. That we can help you find one. Kangaroo is another popular alternate protein.
Yeah, and we have a good venison blend, and that's what we did kind of about a year ago, because that's what was happening, is that there wasn't enough of it out there of good quality venison, so we switched it to a blend, and it kept the price the same, so we didn't have to jump, 40.
And you'll see that. So the blend, adding those blends, and you also see that added in. So that's another good. It's in your red meat.
Yeah.
So it's in this raw blend. This happens to be a small breed, but this one has lamb, beef, and venison. So that's an option. But you'll see that's how you're going to see venison now, more or less, unless because the price
goes
way up. Yeah,
and we'll see.
And that may be a short-term thing, but the breeding population needs to increase. So
yes,
thank you, Deborah.
Abby had a question.
Yeah.
Will you guys consider making a larger bag of frozen morsels or patties for cats? I believe frozen cat is only available in 1 pound bags.
Yes. So is there an availability to make bigger bags in our cat than the one that we do offer right now? And as of right now, we don't have anything in the works, but it's something that we've thought about, and I could see that happening somewhere down the line. So it's somewhere in our pipeline.
Right.
Can't announce any of that yet because I don't know timelines, but we've had the need, and you're not alone in that, and we listen very well, and that's something that we're definitely going to improve on. So
we do have the bigger bags in the freeze dry.
Right, correct. There are bigger bags.
Yeah.
The neat thing too, just kind of a side note, is taurine's the big difference with the cat formula, and although this hits the AFCO standard, which is kind of the guidelines out there that kind of controls what goes in, there's taurine in actually all of our foods. So I get a lot of customers who will use the big giant bag of dog freeze-dried if they have a couple cats and use that. Now, it's not AFCO approved, but I get a lot of people who don't worry about that because it is in their food. So that's always an option too. And do your research with it, but I have a lot of people
and if you rotate through and every now and then, you'll make sure your cat's getting, because taurine is critically essential for their health, but that's an option because of the high meat content. Great. Thank you guys for watching tonight.
It's great.
I think I have one more.
Okay.
It's Cheryl. Does the HPP take out some of the nutrients?
The way we do it, it does not, because it works within that that temperature. So because we do that, what it really does is break through the molecules, at a molecular level breaks through, and that's what kills the foodborne pathogens. But because of the clean process that we use, it doesn't remove any, and I don't think I answered that or asked that question again, did I? Or say that question again, did I? Sorry. But no, the nutrients are still there and in plenty because we put much more than you need into our food.
So the question was, does HPP reduce any of the nutritional quality of the foods? And because of the proprietary process that Stella Chewy's is using, they're saying, correct, or not an appreciable difference in that. So it's kind of a cost-benefit analysis with that. But if that's something you're really concerned about, then it's HPP. So perfect. Great. Okay, so you guys, I did announce, just want to say we're going to have some specials coming up. They're going to be sort of limited edition as we have them and then as they sell out. So we're going to run a promo on our 3.5 pound bags of raw coated and raw blend. So we're going to do a deal on the, there's a cage free that we're doing in the raw blend that we're going to do $5 off the cage free raw blend. And we're going to do $4 off raw coated on the raw coated beef and a raw coated whitefish. So those are the promos we're going to be running. You'll see those set up in stores beginning later this week. So that's going to be that promo. And then when you buy a big 18 ounce, the big bag of the meal mixers, the 18 ounce meal mixers, you are going to get a free bag of the biscuits. As a bonus. So that's a great way. That 18 ounce bag is going to last you some time.
40 days.
Yeah, so 40 days for as a topper. Great way, introductory way to get raw in, and then you've got a nice treat with the kibble too. So come on in. We are here to help you. Four Muddy Paws is all about our dogs and cats getting the best nutrition they can. Stella Chewy's has been a great partner for us. We've loved working together. Ever really. From almost the day we opened, so right when you guys started out. It's been a great partnership.
It's been a road.
Yeah, it has. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight and for viewing this online later on our YouTube channel. Remember, everything is archived on our website, on our Four Muddy Paws YouTube channel. It's on our Facebook page. We really appreciate the feedback. If you guys have any suggestions you want for additional, Who's in the Kitchen with Four Muddy Paws, that would be great because we want this to be your resource. We want as a store, as an individual, I want to give you guys the information you need. We really trust our vendor partners to help us, and we're so glad, Michael, you could come out today and visit us and come to the kitchen and talk to us all about the food. You can tell we're excited about what we do, and we're glad that you guys are too. So thank you so much, and have a great night, and we appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.